He did do it.
He did
show me he's a badass. I said, yeah. I don't need the question. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Damsels After Dark. And I'm Crystal.
I'm Kristen.
And today we are doing Haunting Adeline, which I'm so excited to read this book. I know, well, I did read it. Yeah. I'm excited to discuss this book.
Yeah. I'm a little excited too. Don't get me wrong, I didn't absolutely hate the whole book. So I'm excited to talk about, all of our little points,
Mm-hmm. Well, if you would like to follow along and read with us too, our reading and review schedule down below.
Yes, I don't know if you guys are aware, if you have started reading this or not, but this book is not as intense as Satan's Affair. It still does have a lot of elements of the same thing. So just be aware. There's a lot of dark triggers and warnings in here. So I'll just go off and read them off real quick, just so that you guys are aware. It's says very dark, triggering situations such as non-dub con between the main characters, graphic violence, human trafficking, stalking, child trafficking, child sacrifice, mentions of child death, explicit sexual situations, kinks such as gunplay, somnophilia, bondage, degradation. That's a lot.
Yeah, so that's it.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, so let's not waste any more time and let's jump into it.
Yeah.
So as we've said a million times, I dragged Kristen through this.
Yeah.
She finally made it to the end. She's at the end before I am at the end.
It's a crazy wild ride. I don't know if I would definitely tell anybody else to read this. Like, if you listen to our last episode, I've already recommended it to 2 people, and I will not do that again. I learned my lesson to read a book before I recommend it.
I was about to say, that's what you get for recommending before you read.
Never do that again.
It really came back to bite you in the ass, because this was probably one of the worst books to do that on.
It is. But I didn't know that. I didn't know. And I assumed it was a dark fantasy book. It is not dark fantasy. It's dark romance. 2 different things. So
yeah.
If you aren't going to read Satan's Affair, but read this first, I suggest you read Satan's Affair at some point, particularly when you see Satan's Affair pop up in this book.
Yeah. It is kind of a necessary evil to read that one. It makes a lot of these scenes better. In both of our opinions. Well, not a lot of these scenes. One specific scene is a lot better.
Particularly in this book, yes.
Particularly in this book. It's marvelously done. But it is hard to get through. It's a lot harder to get through Satan's Affair than it is to get through this one if you're squeamish or this is your first trip down dark romance lane.
It shouldn't be, though.
I don't know where you should start dark romance because we're not well versed in this, but
no, but it's not here.
No, I wouldn't. No, not here. But all of that to say, the book talk girlies reeled me in. There was the picture. There was the quotes. There was the constant just seeing things pop up about him, like people saying, like, oh, this is so Zayd. Oh, this is Zayd. And I was like, ooh, he looks like my type. Like, he's dark, he's morally gray, he's hot. 2
different eye colors. I love that. The scar across his face.
Yes.
I love that.
And the thing was like, oh, well, he stalks her. Oh. And I was like, you could do with a little stalking. It's kind of romantic.
I wouldn't want anyone stalking me.
No,
don't fucking stalk me. I will go crazy.
But in this book.
But in fictional worlds.
I was into it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not shocked.
So when I was seeing these, I was like, well, it's not that bad. Like, it's fine. I can handle a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I think that they specifically left out the non-consent portion because I didn't know any of that. I know you had more of an inkling to that, which is why you were so not wanting to get into these books. Yeah, because
the person that I recommended to read these books had read these books and then asked me why the fuck I wanted them to read it, and then I found out it's because it's non-consensual for a good chunk of the book. I would say 80% of this book is non-consensual.
Yeah,
I have a big problem in a lot of books. The things I do not agree with is non-consent. Like I don't want anything to do with books that have non-consent in it. I do not like books with cheating. I do not like books with extreme abuse towards a person in the relationship. Yes. I can't do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things I don't know about in book world that I would hard pass on. However, those are the three that I immediately, when I read, I'm just immediately disgusted. Yeah. However, I did push through these books. I probably would have DNF'd it after the first non-consent scene, to be honest. However, I did push through it, and it was a little bit easier as you go through the second book. Particularly this book. It becomes a little easier to read because, like it said in the warnings, non-consent becomes consent.
Yeah. I will say, too, if you followed us for any amount of time, you know that we're really good at pointing out our consent daddies. Like, we like a consent daddy. Yes.
And we're no stranger to, we have read Manacles. And Draco is one of our favorites. However, there is a blurred line with that situation.
There was a justification there.
There's no blurred lines in this, FYI, without spoiling too much. It's clear. It's clear non-consent. It is not blurred lines. It is clear non-consent. So just FYI, if you can't,
that's a trigger for you.
I wouldn't. Don't do it. Pass on it.
Yeah, you don't need to read this.
Yeah.
There are other books out there with the same vibes without the non-consent. So, I would pass on this. But essentially, we can get into a little bit of summary. Essentially, the summary is there's this girl. Her name is Adeline. She is an author. She inherits this house from her grandmother that's like this beautiful Victorian house that sits on a cliff. It's in Seattle. And she's there, and she's like discovering some things about a side mystery murder that's happening. And as this is coming to as she's learning about this and going on to kind of go down this path, somebody starts stalking her and leaving her roses. And I mean, that's the story.
Yeah, you end up finding out really early on that the person stalking her is this man named Zaid, who is a guy who like really is an advocate for fighting against human trafficking. And when I say he's an advocate for it, I like for fighting against it, he does it on his own. He's a man who has his own resources, and he's like, I had not wanted to tell you this because I want to joke about it with you on the show. He gives me the Batman vibes. And like this dark, gloomy guy who wants to fight underground crime. However, there's no backstory really to him that like Batman does. But like he has his own resources. He fights crime, particularly human trafficking, and he is trying to rid the world of these people, and he uses his own resources, and he's got unlimited resources to do so.
Yes, and on his spare time from fighting crime, he's stalking Adeline. Yeah. And that is the story. It sort of just follows their blooming situationship and then his crime fighting on the side. Yes.
So like, you don't want to get into more details. That is the unspoiler part of it. I guess we could just give our reviews of it. So our unspoilers reviews. I gave this book a 2. I don't really want to say why because it's all spoilers. But I'm just going to go in with the main things. I feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy in this book. I said it like it was a rap. Hypocrisy. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. It's just so many hypocritical situations that I could not get down with. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of anything non-consensual. So it really I just like shut down on a lot of these parts in this book because of it. This is not my type of book. I'm not a dark romance reader, so take my rating with a grain of salt if this is something more like your style. You might be like, oh, she says it's 2, she's not dark romance, it's probably a good book for me, then great, go at it. I just can't. If the consent was part of the book, a major plot point in this book, I think I would have rated it higher. So just FYI. However, I felt like this book was really, there was a lot about it that wasn't needed. And I felt like the plot was not really that great. Yeah. So I lowered it to a 2. So even if you are a dark romance person, but you want a plot, I don't think the plot is really there. I feel like it's lacking a lot, but I'm so used to fantasy. So like there's so much plot in fantasy that there's just lacking. It was just everything was It didn't shine bright like a diamond for me. But yeah, so the spice, I would say 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rating a 2. But without any spoilers, I can't say anymore.
I also gave it a 2. Now, I was conflicted for a while because I might not be specifically a dark romance girly, but I'm a romance girly, and so I think that comes in all shades. Like, I'm fine with the dark romance.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here for it. The problem that I have, aside from the non-consent, is it was boring. Like,
Yeah.
when I kind of came out of the afterglow of the Zade effect, and I had finished reading this book, and I was just cleaning and contemplating my thoughts. When you're outside of that, what the fuck is this book about?
Nothing.
What is this book about? The plot
Nothing.
is so cheesy. The story is predictable. There are too many coincidences going on.
Too many.
It's obnoxious.
It's ridiculous.
The side murder mystery series we got going on was so stupid.
I didn't even care.
I did not care, and this entire book could have existed without it. Like,
The whole series.
Yeah, I don't like it. Every time those letters came up on the page, I was like,
I didn't want to read it.
I don't care.
And it's going to happen in the next book, too,
Great.
FYI.
Great.
I did not want to read it.
You could just flip right past those and just ignore that entire plot, and the story would still remain.
You really could. It didn't change anything.
I also think that his super spy shit is super lame.
What, you didn't like Batman?
No, it was so bad. The problem is like, there's a certain level of having to suspend reality when you're reading books, and we are well versed in this, seeing as how we live in fantasy world.
Thank you.
But I can't, like, it's like any barrier that he would have faced was just erased.
Yeah.
No, because I've got a guy.
Well, because he's Batman.
Yeah. I've got a guy that does that. I got a dude in my ear. I got 15 agents standing outside to pretend to do something. Like,
he's Batman.
What?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I felt like this is a Batman premise. Like, come on, am I reading about Batman? And that is why I have a hard time reading books that are not fantasy, because fantasy is like, okay, it's fantasy. Everything's possible.
Yeah, it's magic. Like,
yeah.
there was, but that's...
You don't even have to explain how the magic is there. It's just there. I'm
Yeah.
accepting. But you tell me this is a real world Seattle setting?
Yeah. Oh, it was, and that
Like,
to me, like, the fact that he came up against no barriers in order to accomplish what he wanted to do was super cheesy. It was the cheesiest cheese I've ever.
He was coming across
had.
like he was like a superhero too, and it's like he's a regular human guy. He's not even a fantasy fictional man, so
Yes.
he's not bulletproof. But yeah, he was coming across like he was. You can't, like, invincible. Like, you couldn't harm him.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is the more and more, like, what do you have, super strength? Like, I was just like, okay, I can't, anytime it had to do with him combating people in the human trafficking world, which I was all for, don't get me wrong, I love a man who's gonna barge into the door and fucking kick things down and beat the shit out of people. Yeah, great, but that's in fantasy world. In reality, not a lot of guys have the capability to do that. He had no training.
Oh.
Like, have you heard any training in any of this book?
That. No.
He's not a military
No,
man.
he's
He's
not.
not like did some MMA shit in the background. He has no trainer. Like,
ooh, that's a good one.
Not even mentioned it, and that is part of my pet peeves. I only wanted to say it a little bit here without the spoilers, but like, you don't read about any of his training other
That's a
than
good
he's
one.
a hacker. And let me picture this for you guys. Do you know any hacker that's like?
Yeah, that's super badass and kicking ass.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are missing a backstory there for why his levels are the way that they are.
Yeah.
I that is something that I was just willing to believe, because
I can't.
I
do
will
that.
say,
Like,
I am a Zade girly. Like, I'm into him.
Okay, I do agree with him when he was a consent daddy, but when he's not consent daddy, I did not agree. So I was picking him apart. I'm like, this motherfucker. when a guy is a hypocrite to me, I'm looking for those red flags. I'm like, even though they were shining bright.
Yeah, I'm like, he's a walking red flag.
Yeah, but like, you're a shining bright red flag but if you're still doing all the right things, I'm kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But he was not doing the right things in the beginning, so I was looking at all those.
Yeah.
Where's your training coming from? How do you know how to do this? Like, I start asking those girlfriend questions.
Taking him apart.
Yeah. But if he was consent daddy in the beginning, I probably would have just ignored everything.
Yeah, I feel conflicted because there is the beginning, which we'll get into, but towards the end, I was pretty much sold. I was not quite as upset, like, picking him apart as you are in the beginning. For me, I was sort of already halfway at his doorstep, because, like, I had seen I had seen a lot, and I liked his banter. Like right off the fucking bat, I was here for it. So I was conceding. Like, oh, you're bad. You say you're a badass. I like your lines talking about how you're a badass. Like, but he's talking about how he's the nightmare in the room, and I'm like, yes, I will accept that. I don't need to know that you have background. I accept it.
I do. I need to know that background because like I want to know because like that to me, all that shit is hot. So like if you're just walking in and telling me you're a badass, I'm like, okay, I knew too many guys to be walking and be acting like they're the badass, but like I want to see it.
But like he did do it.
He did
show me he's a badass, and I said, yeah. I don't need the question.
He did show it. I'm not gonna lie. He showed it out. He was good at it, but like it wasn't fitting into my reality.
Yeah, I get that.
If I'm a fantasy person and now you're telling me I have to accept this real world situation, I'm not very accepting of it takes a little bit for me.
Like just give her a little bone. Give her like a fucking he's a Marine.
Like say something. Just like when I was working, but he's a crazy he's like there's something a little bit off with him, so he couldn't have been in the military. But like, where's your training? Don't you have like a best friend that was in the Marines? Like something.
Yeah.
Something.
Or you traveled the world and you learned this special martial arts from this main. But like there could have been something to fill that hole.
That's why this is a hot Batman.
I accepted. I was like, yes.
Where's your bat?
From the moment that first rose landed, I was like, yes.
Where's your bat cave, Zane?
Well, yeah, you don't get to see it.
That's another thing. You never go to his house. I'm sorry. I'm giving too many spoilers. We should just stop with this.
Well, I did want to say my overall feeling about this book is that this author simply wanted to write a non-consensual sexual relationship. That is what she aimed for, and the plot was just fluff. The plot was just there to like cushion the actual substance, which was Zayd and Adeline. That is the only thing that pushed me through this book. That was what was giving me these giddy feelings. That was literally propelling me through this. And the moment that became repetitive, like the sex, there's a lot of it. And by the time you're 80% through, she shoved 3 more scenes in there. And I was like, I'm kind of, I get it. Like, I get it. Once you do the 1, 2, 3 and he's in, maybe give one more end scene and then I'm done. I don't need any more.
FYI, that's how it is though.
Yeah, I imagine so. So I'm like well prepared for that to be. I'm just gonna kind of
you're gonna get bored of it.
It doesn't hit quite the same that it hit the first couple times, and so once that fell off, then like I said, my afterglow went away, and I was sitting here like, what is the plot? And then you get the answer to the murder mystery, and I'm like, what? What? Wait,
no one cares.
And then you get the end where he gets to where he's trying to go, and I'm also like, what? How did you end up here? How did you get here?
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna eventually be like, where's his training? How does he know this? You're gonna end up being the same. Like I'm telling you, it might not hit right now. But it's gonna get there.
I because like him.
That's I do.
But it is wearing off a little bit. So I think what it.
Because I liked him the second half of this book. FYI, I was not into him the first part only because of the non-consent. That is really what does it for me. I really did not like the non-consent. And I was telling Crystal, I was like, I'm into some crazy books. I was reading about this girl getting off on this dude's boot the other day. I read about a girl having sex with a door handle. Like... None of that bothered me.
I know.
Until I read this book, I'm like, I don't like this because and I'm trying to figure out for the life of me, like, why have I read so much other stuff, but it's the consent. It really is about consent.
And the problem is, too, it's like she literally came out and was like, hey, you like morally gray characters? Yeah, I love morally gray characters. Let me have one. And she gives you Zayd, and she says this is a morally gray character, and then you're there and you get to the gun scene, and I'm like, this is straight whiskey. Yeah, you didn't dilute this at all. There's not an ice cube in here. This is just straight black. Right? Where's the gray? oh, wait. No, the gray is because he's a vigilante, and so
he's Batman.
You carry the one, and somehow I get gray out of this. It's like, no, that situation was straight black. There's no gray in there.
I'm telling you, it's because they're trying to make him Batman.
So what you get then is she must have some sort of non-consensual Batman like kink that she's got going on.
I think so.
It's like, but like once you, it's like you want to look for the blurred lines, especially if you're somebody who's into Zayd. I want to blur those lines, and she starts blurring the lines for stuff that happened in the beginning way towards the end of the book. And at that point, it's like she'll start to blur them, and then she reinforces them.
Yeah.
And then she'll blur them again, and then she reinforces them. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Did he do it, or did he not do it? Because I don't know what to make of this.
It's clear. He
did it,
non-consent.
The thing is, it's not only reinforced through Addie's point of view, but he also enforces it. He says, I did this. Yeah, I did it. And Kristen was telling me a little bit about, not so much, but talking about the non-consent. I was like, joking, oh, but he did it for a reason, right? Like, it's like to save his life. And she's like, no, just because he wanted it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is that gray? I'm looking at this author, like, where's the gray in this character?
There's none.
And the thing is that he will justify the smallest thing, like using somebody's mental illness against to further along his standing. He felt bad about that internally, but he justified it. And it was something so small. And it's like, you'll justify that as the author. You're justifying him doing that. Mm-hmm. You're justifying his murders. The people that he murdered, and saying, oh, well, it's okay because they were bad people. But, like, we have Draco Malfoy from Manacled who killed innocent people, who essayed, like, and he's my number one.
He's my number 2, 3, somewhere in there.
So it's like, It's not that, like you said, we can't get past these things. It's that the lines were blurred. There were things that were justified that actually made his character gray. But if you're giving me shit that's not justifiable, that's not, I mean, you gave me murder, but it's like, that's easy. It's easy to, like, justify. But then you give me this non-consent situation that is a sticky situation, and you just slap me across the face over and over and over to tell me that was what it was.
Tons of times, yeah.
You can't unblur those lines. No. So that's ultimately where I land with this. Like, I think I was at the high, and I was like, this could be a 3.5. And then towards the end, I'm like, I think it's a good 2. I'll give her that. I like her relationship. I like his banter. Yeah. He is good, except for that one part, and that's why you're sitting at a 2 for me. Just not the best. Spice was good at times, but then it wears off.
There was really only a couple scenes that I was just because it had to do with consent. She still blurred the lines for Addie's consent, too, by the way. Yes. Even though Addie did start to consent, it was still very blurred.
She kept trying to fucking bring it back to the non-consent.
Yeah, like, it was really touch and go with Addie's, like, confidently consenting. It was really blurred. But there definitely was a few times where Addie she was all for it. And during those times, I was all for it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. I don't mind this, but I always have in the back of my head how they began. Yes. So it's like it ends up fucking my world up for them. And like I've told Crystal a bunch of times before she even started reading Haunting, I was telling her, like, I really, 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 really wish I could like Zaid, but I can't. I can't overall, as like he's not even one of my book boyfriend world ratings because of his non-consent. I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. And like I said, Draco's in our Draco did essay in one of his books, but he was forced. Yes. So in a way, he was also essayed. But like it was blurred. There was a reason for it. It was life or death situation. There is no life or death situation for Zaid and Addie for them to be together. It is definitely non-consent. I cannot say enough, like, because I really wanted to make it a case. I'm sure anybody who's watching this is probably like, yes, we get it, it's not consent, but like, that is the whole book. Yeah. So like, you can't sit here and say it really is, because the plot points, the subplots in the background are really nothing. Everything is like the human trafficking thing. Sure, he fights it, but it's like it's the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. It really is just one main point, and then that's it. But like, you're driving home the non-consent so hard. What else can we talk about? Because you're making that the point of the book.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say on that front is I think that this book would have served better had the author allowed Addie's feelings on this to sort of lead the way. The fact that, like, the author's so adamant about reminding over and over that it was non-consent, I think is the biggest problem here, because there are some ways she could have rearranged some of how these scenes go that made those lines blurred a little bit more, and I think it would have been more palpable had you edged a little bit against blurry lines, because then it makes it easier for people who are hard against that to find the justification there. Because I would say that the first one, in my opinion, is the main one. Like, the first encounter that they have is the worst one. I think the following two after that have more blurred lines, even though the author keeps trying to tell me that those were also not consent. But Addie sort of instigates scenarios, and she puts herself in this because she likes it. And to me, that blurs the line, and that's more acceptable. But the very first one, but then still, even though she's blurred the line, she's reminding me that it was not consensual. So I think if the author could have just led with Addie's feelings on this, it would have been better, and it would have been less black and white here. And that was the ultimate failure, I think, for this. Blurring the lines would have been a better option. Other than that, you literally just wrote a story on non-consent and what that sexual relationship would look like, to the point that now they're in love. And I have to accept that, and it's really weird. But
yeah,
overall, I like Zaid. I also thought the book was funny. Like, I think there's a lot of really funny parts.
There is a lot of funny parts. I did but the book can't be on banter alone. Like, I mean,
no.
Maybe for some books, but like, I'm a fantasy person, so banter alone does not do it for me. There's got to be a reason why I'm reading this, like, other than just banter and romance. I mean, if I want a banter and romance book, I don't think I would read a dark romance, because a dark romance, there has to be something more than just their banter and wittiness.
Yes.
Because I feel like you can get that in any romance book.
Yeah,
What's the reason for it to be dark? Just the non-consent?
Certainly, it wasn't any better banter than anybody else. But, like, I liked what he was giving me. But, I mean, if the whole point of your book is a non-consent thing, then I don't really need that. Like, your book isn't great otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing here, really.
There really wasn't. There wasn't a substance to, like, any kind of substance other than trauma.
Yeah. So, overall, a 2 and a 2. The Goodreads it's like a 4.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We just will leave that. This is not, we're on the outskirts of this. We found ourselves here before with really popular books, so it's okay. But, you know, at least you know our reasons for why we're here.
Hey, at least this book serves a purpose for some people. You know, whatever, if you enjoyed it, I mean, then that's great. That's what this book is here for you. The author is here for you for that.
Yeah.
This is not... You were talking about blacklisting some authors for your read.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd ever read. But then again, I don't think, even if this was a good book, I'm not a big fan of just, like I said, just regular dark romance. I need a dark fantasy romance. So I still get bored just in regular everyday stories. So I don't think I would actually read anything from this author.
Yeah,
it's not my style.
I had her on my blacklist when I was reading Satan's Affair. But this one made me feel a little bit better, but then again, when I stepped out of it and was like, it's kind of boring. Like,
yeah,
your innards were okay, but like, where were the legs? I guess, like, so
nothing to stand on.
I'm not going out of my way to read your books.
Yeah,
I guess as much as I'm going to say there. So that's our overall review. We can get into our spoilers.
Yay! Finally.
So, did you have any favorite parts?
Okay, so obviously my favorite part is when Zaid meets Sibby in Satan's Affair. That shit was fucking hilarious, because now you see it from Zaid's point of view, and that shit is hilarious.
Oh my god, he's hilarious during that part.
Yeah, and anything after that part of the book, I actually did seem to like really like. I kind of just read through it a lot quicker, because since like I think maybe even a little bit before that Satan's Affair, I was like getting really into the book.
Yeah, because that's like the movie theater scene.
Yes, I like the movie theater scene.
I think from there forward.
Yeah. Once it became consensual, like I was starting to see it was more consensual based off of Addie's perspective. I started to actually enjoy it. Addie did drive me a little crazy every now and then, let me say. But we're sticking to our favorite parts right now. I can go into that later. That's pretty much the end of the end of the book that I liked was that part, was Sibby, Zaid, and Addie's, all that interaction towards that part of the book. If I could just base it off of that part of the book, I probably would have given it a 3, because that's where the story plot and like that should have just been a short story on its own. Like, I would enjoy that. I don't really have anything else, because I have more in my, I wouldn't say hated parts, but more of a discussion on this book that I wanted to get in detail. So we'll just stop there.
I also agree with you that the Sibby part is like the best fucking part. I think Addie is funny as fuck. And I said this to Kristen, and I'm gonna say it here too. There's a lot of times where she's reminding me of Kristen. Like it's that string of like when she's being stalked, she is like, angry. She's like in her house fucking pissed off. She's grabbing a butcher's knife. Like, no, ain't nobody gonna make me scared at my house. Like, that's such a Kristen. Running out to him, though Kristen would have taken the butcher's knife.
I would have the goddamn knife with me.
But, like, confronting her stalker out in the middle of the fucking forest, like, angry. Like, totally Kristen. There's also this part where he gives her the hands, and she's holding the fucking box, and she says, what does she say? Oh, yeah, handshaking, I set the box down to panic. There's a drop of blood on my toe. I knew there was blood on my hands already, but my toes? I can't take this. Like, that's such a Kristen. So I loved all of that. She was just really funny. Like, her internal monologue was funny. I also thought Zayd's internal monologue was hilarious. And, of course, I'm a sucker for a male POV. I liked his POV, and I liked seeing his POV both, like, in sexual situations and outside of sexual situations. I thought those were great. And one of my other all-time favorite parts was when Zayd and Mark stumble upon Addie while she's just minding her own goddamn business, trying to write her book. And they come up on her, and then he's introduced as her boyfriend. And like, it's from Zayd's point of view, which I love, too. Like,
I did. I like that, too. I don't think I would have liked it from Addie's point of view.
No.
Because, like, you had to see what was happening prior to... Because Addie had no idea they were there.
Yeah. No idea whatsoever. And out of nowhere, she's like... and he's my boyfriend. Like, excuse me.
My stalker rapist is my boyfriend now? Like,
excuse me?
Yeah.
And the final thing that I like, it's just a small thing, but I'm obsessed with the amount of roses. Like, the roses in the beginning, flooding her house with roses. And then still after they're starting to become, like, a relationship, he's still, like, secretly leaving her roses. Like, here and there. And it's, like, a thing that he never stopped doing. And
the part where he says, like, he fills her whole, like, living room with roses or whatever. And, like, she ends up... like, going to her friend's house or whatever and gets upset. She goes, what, you didn't like my roses?
Yeah, he texted her that. It's great. I love it.
There's a part, too, like, I'm not a big fan of smokers. Like, I don't...
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the smoking, but for some reason...
For some reason.
When he's out in the woods...
Yes!
And all you see is him in darkness with the fucking...
hood.
The smoke. Mm-hmm. Oh! I was like, why is this hot? I hate
smokers, too. And all I could think about was how gross he would be tasting, but every time Addie was like, no, it's okay, he tastes like mint. Like,
you know what's funny is that it's crazy to me because every time he threw a I've dated guys who smoked, so FYI. Every guy I've ever dated who threw a cigarette on the ground, I look at him and go, pick that up, that's disgusting, don't litter. So every time Addie was doing I was like... That sounds like me. But she was, like, so turned on by that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I get that. I get it. I don't understand what it is about it. I think smoking is disgusting. Yes. However, why is it hot?
Why is it hot for him?
Yeah.
Why? Why did it work? I don't know.
It did, though.
But the fact that, he was standing out there just that. Yeah. I was there. I was like, yeah.
But if that were to happen in real life and I would have seen it, I would have been just like Addie. I would have went out there and been like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I would have been the same way.
Who are you?
Yeah. With my knife, though, by the way.
Yeah,
I won't have a knife on me.
Why she was a little silly. So worst parts. Oh, you said...
I just have talking points. I mean, they are worst parts, though. I might as well just bring them up. Zayd is a hypocrite. A big hypocrite. How are you going to go and fight human trafficking? Go to these clubs and be like, I don't like how these guys are marking up their women, how they leave marks on them, how they hurt them. And then he goes and he rapes Addie and he leaves marks on her. Yeah. She has to wear turtlenecks to cover her. And this is before consent, guys. Mm-hmm. Like, if it was consensual, it's whatever. But, like, that's you know.
He also makes a comment, too, about, like, I think... He's asking Mark, like, how he picks these girls or when they get picked. Yeah. And Mark says, oh, sometimes they dress. And internally, Zayd says, a way a woman dresses shouldn't matter if you kidnap them or rape them. It's not an invitation. And I literally highlighted it and I was like, says the rapist?
Yeah, like what?
You're doing that. I don't...
So everything, I felt like he was two people. Because everything he was doing in his human trafficking fighting world, he was saying, and he was just, I was like, yeah, I get it. He's a fucking great dude. But then he goes to Addie, and everything those fucking rapist piece of shit human traffickers were doing, he was doing Addie. Yeah. So it was like, I couldn't help but feel that he was fulfilling some desire through his human trafficking world that he was seeing. He was doing on, and he had no backstory where he even tells Addie, I didn't have a really bad childhood.
My childhood was great.
Yeah.
My parents left me.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just, something happens, like nothing happens to a person. They just decide that this is what they want to, have any kind of passion towards. Mm-hmm. And his passion was to fight these pieces of shit. Great. Love it. Love that you're this fucking morally great character, so to speak. But where's the gray part when you're, like you said, you're just giving me a shot of whiskey with no ice. You need to dilute that shit. You're giving me straight rapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't help how big of a hypocrite he was.
Yeah.
And then okay, so my questions were answered throughout this book, and so I'm just going to mention this. Like, he goes, throughout the whole book, I'm like, why could he just say something to her at the book signing? Why? Because it didn't make complete sense to me why he was doing this, because he's a hot dude with lots of money. He's a impressionable guy. Like, he does something great on his off time. So why, Batman, are you going to this girl, which you could probably get easily, and you are just instead raping her and stalking her?
Yeah.
He answers it. You know what he says? He just wants to.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the gist of it. He's obsessed with her to the point where he wants to, and he doesn't want her to see a fake side of him. He doesn't want to go up to her and pretend he's somebody he's not and woo her and do all this stuff. And while he's saying that, I'm like, so you don't want to do that stuff to her? That to you would be fake? But isn't that what you want from her? You could still woo her and then show her who you truly are. No one says you have to go up to her and immediately be like, oh, I'm like this fucking great guy. No, you can go up to her and you can actually have a conversation with her, date her, and then show her slowly who you are.
And the thing too is that he justifies it in saying that he's the dark one, he's the nightmare. But it's like you're killing people to save little children and women who are being sexed. So what part of you is dark that you had to make that be the forefront, that she had to love your most darkest part? Is it like just because you're dark in the bedroom and you like a little BDSM? Like,
yeah, because
that's fine.
You're not dark anywhere else.
You're not dark anywhere else. I mean, you're killing people, but it's just like you're
killing pieces of shit.
You're saving people at the end of the day. So there is no dark corruption within your soul. The dark corruption is literally stalking Addie, and raping Addie. So it's like, is that your thing?
But
like,
he said,
but not just with her.
He didn't do it with anybody
else.
He
didn't do it with anybody else. So it's like, so it's not who you are.
No, because he said before that he could get any woman he wanted. He just didn't want them, and they would actually beg to stay with him.
Yeah,
and he would just be like, I don't want this. But like Zayd was obsessed with Addie to the point where he said he would lose all control and he had to have her, and he wanted to, this is disgusting, he wanted to break her all the way down to her minuscule form to reshape her into being the person who loves him. He wanted to corrupt her and make her this black soul like he is, and it's like,
you're not.
That sounds disgusting to me.
You're not a black soul. Where is the blackness coming from, other than just your raping of Addie? I don't get it.
I don't know.
You want to talk about people who got black souls? Like, again, we're talking about Draco literally killed innocent people. So it's like, that's a black soul that needs cleansing.
Yeah.
But you're telling me you are so adamant about not killing innocent people, and like even the mention of harming or touching an innocent person fucking pisses you off. I don't see where this blackness that you need to corrupt Addie to be you, other than just you're super dominant and possessive in the bedroom. Like, that's it.
And I didn't understand any of that. Like,
yeah, I agree.
So I felt like he's a big hypocrite in that. And then, okay, the rape scene with the gun. Why did you have to make that your first rape scene? Like, couldn't you had made just like, why a gun? Like, I get it. It's supposed to be dangerous and all this other stuff, but like, and I guess gunplay is a thing, and I'm not into any of that. So like, I don't know that world of gunplay in books and stuff like that. I don't fucking know. It's just dangerous. I'm in the mindset of, if you don't point a gun unless you're going to shoot it at somebody or something that you're going to harm. So like, you don't do that. Muzzle awareness is a real thing, guys. Okay. You don't point a weapon unless you're going to use it for something. And if you have it in a vagina, that's a dangerous situation, whether you got one in the chamber or not.
And the thing I'll agree with you with that is that it elevated the situation. So you already had an raping situation, but then you made it more traumatizing because he takes the gun and he has it on her before he has it in her. So that already elevated it to like really remind everybody that she is not consenting, because now she's scared for her life because there's a gun involved. It would be a little bit different if it was just him. Like you said, like, couldn't this have been a different thing that they were playing around with first?
And she doesn't know it's him. Like, she doesn't see Zayd at all. So let's put that in perspective. She doesn't know who it is yet. Like, there's that borderline, oh, if he's hot, I would probably go for it. But she doesn't know who he is. She doesn't know what he looks like. She doesn't know any of that. And I think she may at some point during this play.
I think it's like right before it happens.
Yeah, but before that, she had no idea. Yeah. So like,
so she couldn't have even had a little bit of interest, and by the time she might have an interest, it's just fear.
Yeah.
There's no time to process this, because now this huge dude's on you. Now he's got a gun. Oh, and now it's in you. It's just like, none of that was.
Apparently she liked it, but
she did.
Let's put it this way though. your body could still like something. Doesn't necessarily mean you want it or your mind likes it. You could still be saying, no, 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 I don't want this, even though you're forced to do something and your body's reacting a certain way. That doesn't mean it's not any less of a rape. It's still rape. And she still felt shame.
And I think that's where a lot of the real world shame comes in too, is that this is a lot of people's real life experiences, and that they've been put in situations that they don't want to be in, but their body reacted a certain way, so they don't know how to feel about it. And so you put her in that position, but then she ends up in love on the other side, and that's
my thing too.
Icky.
Yeah, it's icky. And I'm like, if an author wants to throw any kind of depraved shit at me in my direction, whatever, as long as there's consent involved, because it's like, okay, these people want it, they like it. It's great for
We're not here to yuck your yum.
No, in fact, I'm about to read about it, and I'm like maybe into it too. Like, I don't know. Like,
you can open some doors for me.
Yeah, literal. Which
we literally read a book about some girl doing it with a door, and like.
She wanted it.
All right.
It was consensual.
Okay.
Like, get it, girl.
Get it.
Get you that door. But like,
get you that door.
But like, yeah, no, I wasn't going for this, and so.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. I'll throw some random things that I hated out here. The whole murder investigation. What is this fucking subplot? The fact that her great-grandmother was also stalked in the same house. Like, why is this a coincidence? Why did we write that in? I hated every part of this.
And the person who killed her happened to be the guy who's trying to grab Addie is his great-grandfather. Like, how is everybody connected?
Yeah. This is horrible. And it's like, you did this purposely for what? Yeah. Why? This book could have existed without this, and the most funny part of this whole fucking murder investigation scene is, and I'm laughing because it's just so obnoxious, they find a bloody Rolex with a note that says, hide this, no one can know I did it, remember that. What the? Who? So you killed somebody, you got their blood on your watch, and you give that watch, I don't even care who you fucking give it to.
And the note.
And the fucking...
I forgot about that.
I did it. You hide this. Why? Why not?
Signed Frank.
Why are you keeping this? Why aren't you cleaning the watch? Why isn't the watch thrown into the river? Like, who? What the fuck is you? You hid it in the murdered victim's house.
In the attic.
In the attic.
In the floorboard.
You didn't clean it off. You didn't clean her blood off. You scratched the serial number off.
Yeah. Why would you go to that link? And then you hide it next to her journal.
What is this? Stop writing side murder investigation plots. Yeah, you're not good at it.
And the ghost story too.
I brought that up. That is another one. Why are there ghosts? Is this a paranormal dark romance? Are we gonna fuck with these ghosts eventually?
This is not a paranormal. Do not make it a paranormal. No. If you think it is not. If you read this book and think there's something going to happen, it is not. I'm letting you know right now, because I would kind of be into a paranormal romance. I'm into that shit.
I'm here.
Not this book.
Why were they here?
There's no reason.
One of them led her to this one piece of paper. Now, if you would have had it lead her to the one that solved the crime, okay. But you led it to another clue, and that was it. That was all. Zayd had a ghost up his ass at one point. She had a ghost showing her things like 2 times, and then I've not heard about a ghost since.
No, you won't. And then in the third book, it probably makes mention of it, but like it's not plot.
Why are they here? What are they here for?
No reason.
And another one too is and this is gonna go back to the non-consent thing. The author felt the need to not only tell me over and over that it was non-consensual, but during the acts had to zoom up on her tears. That was just too much for me. Why are we in her face with the tears? Every time the tears were welling and they're trickling down my face. It's like I get it. It's gross, and like I got it. And then I have a tiny little nitpick thing that I just think is really funny. This author, I don't know why she's describing things the way that she's describing them. It comes off like a man wrote this book, because there's a way that women describe certain things and there's a way that men would describe certain things. And she was talking about wetness straight pooling, like water in her hand. I'm like, what?
Girl, you gotta go get some shit.
What? I don't think that's right. I don't. And then
like a lot. Not like a little, like a lot. Like it was dripping down.
Dripping.
Like
drips. Like saturating underwear.
Like she pissed herself.
Yes, I was like, I don't think that's how that works, but okay. Maybe I don't know Zayd, so maybe it's a Zayd thing. I don't know. Anyways, also on to that note, the way she is like intent on describing Addie, both through Addie's eyes and through Zayd's eyes. Through Zayd's eyes, it's constantly talking about how Addie's small. She's petite. She got petite hands. She's got a petite mouth. She's got a small face. She's got small features. Everything about Addie is small, but she is curvy as fuck. Like, she's got a plump ass. She's curvy. All those curves. Like, okay, whatever. But then we switch over to Addie's point of view, and all this girl can talk about is her flat stomach. Anytime her stomach's mentioned, it's like, he rubs his hand across my flat stomach. Oh, I moved the sheets over my flat stomach. I'm like, I fucking get it. And then we get the scene where she's talking to her friend about taking pictures that she's got nudes on her phone. She's like, well, I don't send them to anybody. I just look at them because I'm so hot.
I think that's fucking hilarious.
It's funny, but I'm also over here.
It's ridiculous.
Like, it's ridiculous is what it is.
Hilarious. You can think you're hot. That's fine. I mean, that's wonderful. There's a lot of us walking around confident as fuck, but like,
it's just so in my face by this author over and over again.
Yeah, it's a little bit much.
I count, it was 5 times she said flat stomach, which may not sound like a lot, but it is a pet peeve of mine just in general when authors use the same fucking words to describe something over and over again.
Weep. Like,
a weep is another one.
Okay, Weeping Willow. Like, can we stop with the weeping? I'm so tired of
Me too. And the thing is too, and it's not just with this book, I'm not nitpicking this book because I'll even say in Twisted Crowns, she said breath all the time.
Bated breath?
Well, just saying breath, like things were breathed of salt, breathed of mint.
Yeah,
and it was also 5 times. So I'm like, okay, it's not just me being crazy about this book. I don't like it when you keep using the same words.
No, I don't either.
Just say stomach. Just say your stomach, it's fine.
Yeah.
I was joking with Kristen, it sounded a lot like she was like, he rubbed his hand on my itty bitty waist, on my super skinny waist. He rubbed his hand. Like, I pulled the covers over my super skinny waist. It's like, I get it, Eddie. You're fucking hot. Okay, let's move on. But just all around, a 2. I think a 2 is also being a little bit generous.
A 2 is being generous.
To like nitpick and dissect, a 2 is generous, but I'll give it to her because there was a moment in this book that I was gobbling up and I wanted more of it. But then when you get back out to the end,
yeah, it was like zoo, boop.
Yeah.
Like, they just had that little hump in the road that I was just like, oh, this is interesting. And then it just, I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm done with it. I need, like, the next book, just FYI, if you've already read the second book, obviously she gets captured. So you kind of know what's in store for the next book.
Yeah.
And so, it's just not going to be any easier.
and even her being captured was so obvious.
It was obvious.
The moment Mark was like, yeah, she's on our list. Like, oh, well, there's the whole plot of the second book.
Well, I mean, obviously. It says right in the thing, too, Haunting of Adeline, she's captured. So if you kind of even, look into the next book, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not...
So...
It's super...
which is weird
obvious.
because you hit me with a good twist in your fucked up Satan's Affair book, but then everything in this book is... down to, like, who her best friend's working for. Like, everything that felt like she was trying to set me up for a big reveal, I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was so obvious. Everything's so coincidental. Everything so perfectly fits together.
Nobody else in this world but, like, 5 of you. But then everybody else in this world is, like, all caught up. It made no sense. It just drove me crazy. And, like, I wasn't even shocked that, like, anything happens. I don't think there was a time I was like, oh my god. I was just like, there was parts where I was just like, oh, come on. I was like, really, this again? Like,
yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot that I was really into, except for that laugh. Like I said, right shortly before Satan's Affair.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, guys. Sorry.
That's all, yeah. So, a very generous, too. Yeah, so with that high note, we will be finishing up this duology with The Haunting of Adeline next week. So be sure to, if you loved our review and our ranting, be sure to join us for that.
Yeah. So don't forget to like and subscribe to follow us along and see what we're doing next week or the week before. Or the week after, week before. We're already here. I'm tired, guys.
Jump into the week before, come to the week after. Yeah. We're here every week.
Yeah, we're here. Well, we're trying to be.
Yeah, we are trying to be. Don't hold us to that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. Leave us your thoughts, too. I would like to know. This community is so divided, so I'm really interested to know your thoughts or what you think Kristen and I got totally wrong or what you think we got right.
I'm not wrong. I'm just a little bit opinionated. Sorry, guys. You can't change my opinion on it. But I'd like to know what you think about it.
Yeah, I'd like to see the argument.
Yeah. Yes, please. The argument would be great.
Yeah, we'll see it. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.